Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi. November the 16th is the International Day for Tolerance. And to learn a bit more about that, its origins, and also why it may have a bit of an added meaning here in 2023, we're now joined by 9 News race and culture contributor Shay Johnson for a bit more about this. Shay, thanks so much for joining us. And tell us a bit more about this International Day for Tolerance. Admittedly, something I did not know existed until we started discussing the segment.
Chris, if you don't tell anybody, I'll tell you as well. I did not know either. And I'm a race and culture expert, so I feel like this year is a great year for us to learn together along with you all. So this has been dedicated to promoting tolerance and really the understanding and respect that goes around different cultures. What I love about this is it encourages you to recognize the values in different communities from diversity, also like really fostering dialogue and having those conversations about what cultures represent, issues that are related to not having tolerance. And so this is really a time for our communities to come and have conversations that we may not always have at the table.
And maybe a bit of thinking about what's going on in the world right now, maybe a bit of an added meaning about that taking place here in 2023, would you say?
I think that you're absolutely right about that. You kind of hit the nail on the head because this is a crucial time. We know that there's escalating global challenges, to say the least. We also know that that's a lot of relation to division and really intolerance. And so when we're looking at it this year, we're able to say that this serves as a timely reminder about really creating unity inside of diversity and really making sure that we're addressing the contemporary social needs as well as political and cultural competence. We really want to make sure we start to highlight that because we know what our world is like right now.
Yeah. Now, International Day for Tolerance started in 1995, mentioned that. How has that evolved or changed, if at all, over the years?
It absolutely has evolved, and it's really because it started out from a space of let's just look at the nations. Let's look at the diverse nations and not just the diverse communities. And so now this is focusing on communities around internal things inside of our communities right here in places like Colorado, where we needed to really evolve and embrace the context of what's happening right here in our own cities. It's adapting to like changes as far as the social landscape and really not just saying, hey, there are different nations with diversity, but right here in our own backyard, there are people with diversities that need to be shared, highlighted, and their stories do matter, and they need to be told.
Are there maybe subsections within International Day for Tolerance? That's obviously a very big theme, and that means a lot to a lot of different people. In the United States, that'll vary compared to what you might expect in, say, Asia or Africa or Europe. Are there kind of ways to kind of break up, so to speak, that theme?
Oh, I love that. I think there's ways to break up this thing really by focusing on what do you have in your subdivision, what different cultures are represented right here in our subdivisions, and then seeing how do they really take part in the landscape of our culture. You know, asking ourselves when we look at education, is there people in the education system that can speak to each diverse community? When we look at politics, is there someone that represents different mindsets? So when we really start to look at things and break it down, we can say within our community, is everyone represented at the table?
Yeah, that's obviously most important. And maybe what can individuals or smaller organizations, aside from the United Nations, do to amplify these themes of the International Day for Tolerance?
I say we have to keep doing the events, the workshops, the discussions, supporting different initiatives that actually are taking part in these hard topics, really promoting tolerance by celebrating, by uplifting different cultures and the diversity. Let's make sure we're going to these different things that capture those. You know, there's so much social media out there right now, so much content. We've got to make sure there's some positive images that highlight different cultures. It's imperative to how people actually see us.
And maybe for the average person who's watching us in Colorado, across the western United States, it doesn't necessarily matter, but maybe say a bit more focused here in Colorado, what would you suggest somebody do on November the 16th or around November the 16th to best promote the International Day for Tolerance?
That is a great question. I say around November 16th, why don't you go and celebrate someone that is different than you. So maybe you show up and go and have a food that's outside of your culture. Maybe you show up at an event that's outside of your culture. Maybe you show up at a workshop that is promoting diversity. Maybe you look at all these amazing nonprofits out there that are doing the work and saying that we stand for different diverse communities and we actually would love for you to be a part of it. Maybe you just give to something that's different than your average things that you give to, but be a part of something that's not maybe a part of your everyday trajectory. Like, let's make sure we're going out of our our way to find something that's different and not in our culture.
Yeah, that's a good bit of advice there.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, and
Why not?
no doubt about that. Any final thoughts about the International Day for Tolerance and how it can kind of serve as that platform that you're speaking of
Yes.
a kind of a positive form of inclusivity?
You know, my last thought around that is really making sure that we contribute to having tolerance in a society that can be so intolerant, right? And that is by really creating inclusivity. We want to make sure that in different spaces we can see different faces from different cultures. And when I look at landscapes and I go into different companies and businesses, I always look at their business culture. I look at their acumen and I say, are there people that are diverse in this that have an actual say, not just the faces, but people that have a say. So let's make sure that we're making it comfortable for people from diverse backgrounds to be a part of different organizations, to be a part of different platforms, and let's really look at our collective strength. When we come together, there's so much collective strength, and it's so beautiful when we really embrace the rich tapestry of human experiences that come from different walks of life.
No doubt about that, and I can say that firsthand. I got a Jewish mom and a Catholic dad, so
There it is.
they figure it out. A lot of guilt on both sides, but
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But look at the beauty that comes out when you mix relations, different backgrounds. Look at that. There's something beautiful that happens, and I hope that we all start to really celebrate that.
Absolutely. Well, an International Day for Tolerance, November the 16th.
November the 16th.
And again, this is a day that was first declared by the United Nations. But
Yes.
9 News Race and Culture contributor Shay Johnson, thanks so much for joining us and kind of teaching us about this here today.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's my pleasure.